Hi, folks. It's Keith Beardsley, atory01.com, back with another edition of the Atory blog. And I was asked a very interesting question yesterday on Twitter as a follow up to the blog I posted yesterday. And it refers to the Paul Bernardo issue and plausible deniability. So, this is when a minister can say, I never heard, I didn't know, whatever the case might be, when a case basically goes sideways and there's huge negative media coverage. It works for prime ministers too. The main job for staff, whether you are a junior staffer, a senior staffer, a chief of staff, is to protect your minister at all costs. So sometimes what happens is a story comes to your attention, or maybe it's an email, could be from a department, maybe Correctional Services Canada, whatever the case might be. And you look at it and you say, oh my goodness, we're in trouble on this one. So, how do we get out of it? How do we protect the minister? Well, you don't tell them. Just simple as that. You may go to the minister, and smart staff do, and say, Minister, remember that name, Paul Bernardo? Something's going to happen and you're not going to like it, but you also can't do anything about it. So let's just say I'm not going to tell you any more than that. That's it. What do the minister's talk points become? I never got the memo. I never saw those emails. I was never formally briefed on this. Those are the talk points. So the minister can deny knowing anything about exactly what was going to happen, even though he knew that something might happen. So the job for the opposition is to look for that internal timeline. The minister can honestly stand in the House, or the prime minister for that matter, and say, without lying, I read about it in the newspapers, or I heard about it in the media. That was the first time I had heard anything about this. So those become your talk points. Good opposition look at those talk points and start to decipher what are they trying to hide. Read between the lines. Don't listen to the talk point. Another part of your defensive strategy in this case is blame someone else. So he can say, this is the problem caused by Correctional Services Canada. They're the ones who have to fix it. Why? Because he can't fix it. He doesn't have the authority to reverse something. You notice everything is about review. Correctional Services Canada is going to review what happened. Have you ever heard him say, I'm going to order them to reverse this? Or the Prime Minister say, we will order it reversed? Probably not. And if they did, that's where you can get them. Because do they have the authority to interfere with a decision of Correctional Services Canada? There are lots of bodies out there like that, where ministers may administer them, but they cannot direct them. So that's part of what you're going to do. So in the end, the oppo should be looking for those type of answers. Were you ever told something was going to happen with Paul Bernardo? Did one of your staff hint that something was going to happen in advance of it happening? Those are things you can ask, and he has to answer truthfully. In the end, if the media storm is so strong, then he's going to have to do something. And when you take a job as a staffer, your job is to protect the minister. And when the minister is in deep doo-doo, you take the fall for that minister. So if worst case scenario, somewhere down the line, someone's going to be fired. Now in this PMO, apparently all the minister's chief of staffs report directly to PMO, which means there is no support. There is no feelings of warm and fuzziness between chief of staffs and ministers. Ministers know to never trust their chief of staff, which makes this type of issue even worse, because the chief of staff is not protecting the minister. The chief of staff is protecting the prime minister, even though they work for whichever minister in the government. So there you go. That basically is what plausible deniability is always about. It's always got a risk attached to it. But in the end, the minister doesn't take the fall. The staffer does. Keith Beardsley, A Tory 01, wishing you a great day.